one of the complainant's children. It cannot be
back in time to answer these questions. We shall pay extra attention to the dates and the times of the events that preceded. Review and examine the evidence collected. Reopen the pages of the investigation's case briefing to the state attorney. Revisit the scene of crime. Talk to some more witnesses to get to the bottom of the case. We shall start by evidence that they had collected. First, we speak to a key witness in the case, Nakamate, the daughter who was allegedly defiled by her father. On the 2nd of March 2021, Nakamate, the daughter to Nakawesi, went to see her father Mubiru Musa. We revisit the scene of crime to reconstruct what exactly happened.
So we're trying to get to the bottom of this issue for Musa. And this is where the incident happened. What happened during the investigations of the police, that of course was led by the investigations officer Nambi, who is now a potential subject of focus for this investigation. So we wanted to see what really happened at this location. And we spoke to a number of leaders who tried to express to us what they saw that day when the police officers came on site.
Earlier, according to the file that was sent to her father,
at a mother and the accused, the father, to the extent that the complainant left the suspect's home and hid with the children since 2013 until 2020. It is further claimed that the suspect denied one of the complainant's. It cannot be ruled out that the complainant was using this case as revenge against the suspect. According to the interview with Nakawesi, the mother of Nakamate, she had separated with Mubiru for close to 8 years. How possible is it that Nakawesi, who had separated from Mubiru for this long, could use her 13-year-old daughter to frame her father for such a grave offense? If the state attorney wanted to explore this further, could he or she have asked the investigations officer to dig deeper into this issue? The state attorney also raises the issue. The state attorney was interested in this matter. Could he or she have investigated further to rule this out? Could he or she, for example, have conducted a DNA test to prove the allegation? Do we then find the state attorney justified to raise the issue as a reason enough to close the file? Having analyzed these reasons, the state attorney points to a weak investigations report from the Office of the Criminal by the investigations officer Violent Nambi. These pieces of evidence would have provided the state attorney more ground to take up the matter for prosecution. On the 5th of March 2021, Officer Violent Nambi, together with the scene of crime officer, the area deputy LC1 chairman, Nakamate, the alleged victim, Nakawesi, the mother, Robert Kaya, the uncle to the victim, and the area councillor Namfuka Gertrude all went to the scene of crime at Mubiru's house. Any available evidence. We spoke to the deputy LC1 chairman of the area, and he recollects what happened.
Abasirikale abo bayingira mu nyumba ne bajjayo amasuuka bbiri. Suuka ezo zaaliko ebintu ebyefaanaanyiriza okuba byenninza ekikalaamu ekya maaka ekimyufu ku bipaapi ebyo ne bakuba ebifaananyi ku masuuka ago era ne bategeeza nti bwe baali beetaaga babifunye amasuuka ne bagazingako ne balagira mukyala Landiroodi addemu aggalewo naye essuuka zo ne bagenda nazo.
Robert
yessoka akwata ebifaananyi omwana ono omulala mabega wali yoyo omuwala abalaga ekintu bwekyali ono ye Nambi yakuna yevenga ne criminal oyo omukyala oyo ono ye Soko gwe batugamba asitukire emitwalo 5 ogenda okwefanyiyo no wano laisimu giraba.
These two all confirm that there were bed sheets that were removed from the house, examined and taken as exhibits.
Mu nnyumba mwe nyini munda mwali mulimu essuuka zaalimu 2. Era essuuka ezo ziriko ne maaka eya nyini Nambi yakwata maaka n'asankulinga ewali obukuba omwana yakakibwa. Kati wali embeera eyo ey'obukaka ey'obuvune n'asazawo ne maaka eya bbulu. Essuuka zaali 2 n'azissa mu bbaasa zaali 2 eza kitaka oba eza kaki.
It is also reported that the scene of crime officer took several pictures of the crime scene. However, the report sent to the office of the state attorney lacked any report on the bed sheets collected from Mubiru Musa's home.
Kakati omukyalo oyo Soko atandise kwefanya n'agamba bannange kamera efudde, kamera nga bwefudde kakozesa essimu eyange n'akuba. Ntandika okuba n'agamba nti toteekeddwa tuli mu n'amateeka toteekeddwa kuba biki bifaananyi. Nze nnyini nze munamateeka nze nvunaaniza ku bifaananyi bino kubanga nsonga z'abateeka.
The case file sent to the state attorney did not also have a report from the scene of crime officer regarding the several pieces of evidence that she collected, including the pictures taken.
Nambi yakyusa obujulizi negende wa state attorney ng'erimu ebituli nti obujulizi obwali bulimu bwabula. Era omukyalo oyo Nambi nsaba alete essuuka 2 ze yatwala ezaali zeyawudde mu packets ezaali mu bbaasa ezaali eza kaki. Ebbaasa zaali 2 ng'essuuka ziri 2.
So, how could an investigations officer and a scene of crime officer, whose role is to collect and document such evidence, miss submitting it to the state attorney? Was it intentional or deliberate? The complainant says that there is more than meets the eye for such pieces of evidence to be missed out in the report. They are pointing fingers at investigations officer Violet Nambi.
Omukyala mu butuufu bw'amazima ffenna complaini yaffe yonna eri ku Nambi. Oyo omukyala Nambi yavuluga omusango ye njagala bamuyite naye amateeka gamukwateko nga ye oba ddala omuntu eyasomerera ebyamateeka oyinza yakireka yamwana mitwalo 5 nze kye ŋŋamba osayidde mulamba naawe n'osalawo fayire ejje n'otagamba ku nti omukyala oyo mumuyita jje ayogereko nange mpulire naye tiyaŋŋanya tiyampa budde yewe baayogera ebifudde mu fayiro nga bagijjeemu obujulizi naye yakana yasalawo kungoba bugobi.
Naye neesinga ku neewunyisa ne muto omusibe nga naye abamuletedde mu ngalo zammwe temumuyise tafunye kukkaanya n'omusebe gwabatwalidde tafunye nakunnyonnyola kunna gwe nga gwe OCC yali buvunaanyizibwa bwo nti musango bali bagiganye no wansi nja mu office yo handling cases ezo naye omuntu najja gy'oli n'ongwa this is my office fine it is the office naye it is a public service ewe liye tuyambe naye nga tujja mu office yo nga twekubidde n'olukene wansi kiganye n'otugoba nti get out of my office ekyo ekintu kyannuma.
We put these questions to the police spokesperson, Kampala Metropolitan, Luke Oyesigire.
There was no Soko's report.
Well, I do know that our officers were sent at the scene to pick evidence, including bed sheets, and there was also a request that the child should submit some of her clothes, which were submitted to Government Analytical Laboratory here in Wandegea. That is an independent entity, and they are still awaiting on that report up to now. Is done gathering, making sure that their investigation is done. They will issue out that report. It will also be included on the file.
Oyesigire says that the police will investigate its officer on this big omission.
We all know that whenever the office of the DPP requests for any investigation to be done on the side of police, it is always done. But it is upon them to convince courts of law that this evidence is sufficient enough to have this person convicted. Yes, if the officers at Kabalagala made mistakes, good enough, those mistakes were corrected.
Look, this
like
is a
the way you're
criminal
saying.
case.
Yes.
This is a defilement case.
We know.
It's incest.
And I also know it is a criminal
So the
case.
isolation of evidence like that, look, lets people like those walk on our streets.
And I know it is a criminal case. That's why I'm saying it is good that the officers at the region took over the case. And if there was some negligence in the investigation, or maybe these officers were compromised, that is something that we can investigate later.
Not convinced about the way the matter was handled at the Kabalagala police station, Nakawesi turned to the regional police station in Chibuye for an appeal. Owesijide says that credit should be given to the police for setting up alternative structures of appeal.
This is a case that was put away first. And the good thing about this matter is that the complainant went and saw the officers at Katwe.
That needs to be spoken about at all levels.
Tumusime says that parents too need to create a relationship between their children to freely speak to them about everything they go through.
One is to build an environment where they can talk to their children, but also this speaks to us making information available through school, through parent clubs, through churches, where young people can confidently build a network of people that they can share such critical information with. Because of course the father should have been pillar number one, but where the father has now become the perpetrator, there should be other opportunities, other mechanisms where information can be given out and this girl can redeem the burden on herself. Who else can hear about this apart from her father?
He also wants government to make it easy for girls that have been sexually abused to have access to sexual reproductive health services.
There are people who deliberately don't do a good job to serve the justice system. Justice is entered at different levels. There is justice at the community level where local leaders should be in position to identify these cases, document them and forward them to the next level. We should have a deliberate effort for us, especially as civil society and other actors like the probation's office in the government circles and the judiciary itself, to put up special courts to try issues of gender-based violence, but to have an awareness of what happens when ABCD happens. For example, in this girl's case, important steps in the justice system. One person failing to do their job or deliberately refusing to do their job or having been compromised compromises the justice system that they have, makes it harder for the next person to administer their part on the justice system. Having failure to have a health worker who can examine and give correct diagnosis of what has happened is a problem.
Nakamate's pregnancy test came out negative. She, along with her mother Nakawesi,
applause for Solomon. He's put together a very compelling investigative documentary, and we're very shortly going to allow our panel to give us their own insights about what they think of the documentary now that they've watched it. And the panel is so robust. Like I said, all the machinery around the judiciary system is in the room today, so we'll be able to have, they can take their seats at the front as they're being arranged. The first person is Dr. Miriam Attembe, who I believe needs no further introduction. Dr. Maria Mathema, thank you so much for gracing us today with your presence and for watching the documentary to the end. We'll also have the CEO of LastNet, Dr. Slee. I saw someone in the documentary saying they couldn't take a Zoom call, but we'll be able to get this one on Zoom. We have Mrs. Dora Kichoncho, who is the ED at Uganet, who is one of our partners for today. Thank you so much. You can please take your seat at the front. Then from the office of the DPP, we have Mrs. Samali Wakoli, who is Assistant DPP and the head of the Gender-Based Violence Department at the DPP's office. And then we'll also have Mr. Twine Charles, who is the Public Relations Officer for our CID, the Uganda Police Force. Thank you so much, Charles, for gracing us with your presence today. So I'll ask our panelists to take their seats at the front. And then I work out a microphone here so that we can have a short conversation. No, I will be standing as I moderate. I want to keep fit. Who can have a microphone? Yes, we have. If you want us to further sanitize it, there's a sanitizer here.
skinning off the goat. He is looked at by the goat to be the bad person. But the goat disregarded the person who actually kills it. We've often been castigated as being a thorn in the criminal justice system. Yet we do a lot of good things. But going by your question, Doctor is reminding me, and I also retaliate on this, that Dr. Mathembe is one of the Christians we have, and she mentors us to that effect. I'm not digressing, but when you read the Bible, Matthew chapter 9, verse 38, Jesus was somewhere trying to cast away the demons, and he was approached by John and said, Master, we are seeing somebody casting away the demons, and he's not part of us. And we stop him. And Jesus' response was, please, don't stop him, because he's not against us. And whoever is not against us is for us. I want to take this opportunity to really thank you people for inviting us. This is a kudo to us. You are now showing that you are part of the criminal justice system. You are adding a tofai. My only worry is that I want to caution that you must reduce on the emotions. I saw my brother Solomon Selwanja starting this documentary with serious emotions. And that inevitably creates some levels of, you can't be impartial when you're emotional. Now, our role as Uganda police in the criminal justice system, especially in curtailing, detecting, and let alone causing prostitution for sexual gender-based cases, is very robust. But it is we do other things, of course, among others. We apprehend the suspects, we profile them. And part of what we profile forms evidence, and that evidence is ours as police and prosecution. I was talking to my colleague there, the lawyer. He tells you, and he knows, and doctor knows, that this evidence can only be disclosed at the disclosure process of court. It's not evidence for everybody. Otherwise, like somebody is asking for the bed sheets. Now, if you start sharing the bed sheets with these people, what if the suspect comes and burns them? Or any of his relatives? So we do that thing jealously. Of course, in the interest of time, there are so many things. Eventually, we take the suspect to court. We keep custody of suspects. We look for witnesses, but all in the name of ensuring that there is justice.
Charles, before I let you off the hook, there's an increase in the number of defilement cases. And together with that increase, if you read the JELOS report from last year, 6 in 10 of the reported cases to police do not even progress from his office.
Given an opportunity to discuss, okwogera ne mune, okukanya, you get that? So we have some issues where somebody just needs a police reference. He comes and reports, he gets a reference, you give him PF3 for examination, he or she will never come back. Lawyers here will tell you, we don't prosecute in absentia. Once the suspect is not there, once the evidence of age, once the evidence of penetration is not there, you cannot proceed. You will get an embarrassment from, and we are lucky Ugandans that we have Madame Samuel here. Madame Samuel is, sometimes we think she's an activist. She has that passion of ensuring that the girl child is protected. But at the same time, she does not compromise on evidence. So why we don't proceed? It's a multiple of issues. Of course, I want to agree that we also have issues of integrity. We have some officers. And Madame Damala will also request, because there is something which I have of late been educating about the people, on the way we interview witnesses. You heard that lady, that girl, little girl, saying, Omusajja yankozesa. Now, if a police officer is not well trained, he will write in the statement that the man used me. And what happened? The police officer will write, slept on me. Then what exactly happened? He put his snake on me. And the police officer will write, I'm sorry to use the word. And the police officer who is not trained may use such thing. And at the end of it all, once you take that garbage to Daman, he will not accept. But the beauty is that through the engagement with the friends from civil society organizations and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, we are putting robust and deliberate efforts to ensure that cases
falls through the cracks, about the numbers that fall through, from the moment a case is reported and what finally happens many months later. Indeed, I want to acknowledge that there's been effort, there's been hard work. We acknowledge where offices of government are trying within difficult situations to really make a contribution, but what we have to acknowledge is that the terrain is still difficult. The terrain is difficult, and many children as Nakamate are stuck in the cold. Many parents as Nakamate's mother can only cry themselves to sleep. And that the incidences are growing, as you're mentioning. In 2019, there were 14,000 young cases of defilement. In 2020, another 1,000 had added. And I believe when all the collation around COVID-19 adds, it is going to be more and more cases. We see that the media has been awash of what just the last few months have looked like because of the impact of kids not being in school. We see that we are actually going down the slope. There is no picture of hope today where the situation is. We as frontline workers in this work, we actually are so overwhelmed. We are overwhelmed by the pain and you say that we should sometimes remove the emotion out of it. Yes, we are from the legal profession as well, but you fail to work without emotion on this issue. So we ask ourselves, how will we as a country, as a system, as actors, be angry enough to demand that things take a different trajectory? These are so many thousands of girls are in Nakamate's situation. For how long? What can be done is what is left with us. So, do I agree? I'm not so sure. Is it any of our colleagues here or what they've done or not done? I think this calls for a deeper interrogation. Such lives, too many lives, to only have a simple conversation about. I think we need to be more angry and actions need to be more robust, whether indeed it is starting at the molarity question, at a household question, whether it takes more than the judicial or legal system. I think we need deeper conversations, and I want to thank the effort behind this documentary, and I hope that it can be out there for more interrogation and for answers to be found. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And now I want to bring in Dr. Miriam Attembe, because I hear everyone framing it. And what are your perceptions about what these two officers and their respective officers should be doing?
You might assume to be the custodian of the moment.
No, we don't, but...
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. And you panelists. I want to thank God first that we are actually still alive with people. Whenever I meet people now, I say, hey, thank God, this is what COVID was doing. I tell you, when you are still alive, you must give thanks to the Lord. And this reminds me of our motto, for God and my country, which has turned into my stomach and my relatives. Now, I want to thank Solomon for this particular case, because this is not the case which we are talking about. But this gives us opportunity beyond we who have been suffering with these cases, beyond us. It gives the opportunity to all of you seated here, at least to know what has been happening in this country. And that's exactly what has been happening. So for me, I didn't sit there to get surprised. No. I sat there to listen to one of the examples that we've been dealing with, and there seems to be no stop. It is so painful. It is so sad. It is so, I can't understand. My husband says, you woman, you are going to die. Remember, I finished my work 15 years ago and left I don't have office, I don't work. But I work 24 hours. I'm like the women whom they ask in there, do you work? No, I don't work. You keep sleeping, then they start listing of the work they do. And mark you, I'm working unpaid, waiting to be paid by my God. The cases of defilement by the fathers, by the reverends, by the sheikhs. You people, you don't know, with Uganet here, the father, you see somebody crying and wants to abort, and you are comforting, please, you will die if you abort because it is too late. And this guy is wondering, how can I have my sister who is my child? You are talking of emotions. Actually, people see me very tough. But when it comes to these situations of these women, I cry. The battering, the violence, the defilement. You can imagine this girl, this is father, she's pregnant. Thank God this Nakamati is not pregnant. But she's carrying the baby with her sister, her brother, and at the same time, her child. Do you imagine even Jesus cried? She wept, even when he knew he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. But he wept. So some of us, you see us here, we've been weighed down by these cases. I cannot take 2 days without calls to me against gender-based violence, defilement, incest. Every the other day, I was telling her, I'm so tired, I'm so fed up. And in fact, I was saying, and I'm not looking for a job. Don't go and say Attembe is looking for a job, no. But I was saying, if this government of Uganda knew, the load I carry, they would put there a full department like this Nakarima thing, They would put it there and fund it. And they say, Attembe, you go and head that. And you would see. You would see. Those who are defiling, those who are beating women, you would see. So, the country is suffering. It is extremely unfortunate. It is not only this case, there are so many. In fact, even in this room, I don't want to mention who, we have one defiled by the uncle, and another uncle making her pregnant, and aborting her, and all terrible things. We have them there in our rooms hiding them. And yet, what I heard of this government, I can never speak without talking about government, while I thank you for what you are doing. But I heard two statements from very big highest. One was, these girls are getting pregnant, you parents, it is your fault. I think you heard that statement. It is your fault, you are not caring, you are not... Do you think the schools are the ones care for your children? The second one was, yeah, you'd rather get pregnant at 13, 14, rather than dying of COVID. At least we have 2 people instead of 1. And I was listening. And you can imagine with my emotion about these girls and their life, when you see the most responsible people taking it that way. Do you see any hope? Do you see any future of these 145, is it now 145 girls who have been defiled, who have been raped, who have been some pregnant, some are already married off? Do you see any officer getting them, looking for them and putting a strategy to really pick them up and make them back into human beings that are supposed to be? For us people who have this passion for gender equality and women's empowerment, we are really desperate. We look helpless. We look, and by the way, I want to thank, as I sit here, I want to thank the DPP. The current DPP, she's very concerned. Clap for her. Every case I have taken there, she really follows these things. And the other day, I went there with a man who came, his daughter, claiming that his daughter was defiled by his brother. And I said, let me take you to DPP. Because she told me they have already released the man and on police bond. How does a person be released on police bond when there is that case? I said, no, let me take you to DPP. Do you know what I found? I found that DPP had already seen that case in Bushenyi. The parents, these people demonstrated and put on social media. And the DPP got it and ordered the police there in Mbarara or Bushenyi to forward the file to her. Do you see? She's interested. She's also suffering. What is it saying? That people are desperate. They are not getting help where they should get it from. But to agree with you, the level of moral decadence and eco-value degeneration in this country, I don't know, it will take God to descend here maybe to clean the house. And this has complicated also the work of the police and these people. Because of corruption, there is no faith and there is no trust. Even if what the person, the police is saying and the state attorney is saying is correct without even any involvement of corruption, nobody can believe. Nobody can believe that a case can be done straight away and be cleared and they release the person without payment. Because everybody who rings me, you see, this man has got so much money, he has already paid the police. I say, shut up, stop there. Were you there when he was paying police? Because they just come with that kind of thing. So, I don't know, thank you, Solomon, but the situation is really so big, so wide, so huge, that even if there is no corruption, because of the prevailing environment that is there, of lack of trust, there is no trust in any institution or any officer. There is no trust, I'm telling you. You people who are in offices, I don't know how you are going to pick the trust of people into you. So for now, I can be stopping there, but I want to comment on what she said and you about the language used in these affairs. I don't know whether surely the law should not be made in such a way that it takes into account, or even the judges or the police or the state attorneys, take into account the cultural background under which you operate. Since when does a Ugandan Munyankore, I cannot even now saying that word V, even to say vagina, who? People think this Mathembe also has lost it. She has no manners. You know that. So if that is for us, we say the thing, the snake, why doesn't the law recognize that fact and know that when a girl is saying she put the snake on me, who doesn't know what the girl is meaning? So, yes. And then the other one was this collaboration, the collaboration of evidence of young people, you people. Are we going to stay in history when there is technology? For me, when I was in O level, my mother told me that when I get pregnant, I was 13, they will kill me, I will throw myself into a swamp. And that sustained me because I feared and I knew they meant it. And my father told us, if you drink alcohol, you'll turn into lions. And we believed we would become lions because we are deep down in the village of Rutoma. Now these people who know more than I do, the computer, the phone, the WhatsApp, they know everything. They even know what sex means. They see it. Even some of you are not careful enough, therefore your children are seeing pornography. Now, children who are at that level in this computer
information that has been put out that will actually compromise the actual outcome of this particular case. May God help us, you and I, to be alive, to see how this case will turn out at the end of the day. But these are things that we need to look out for, because now that woman needs protection. All the other witnesses who recorded statements need protection, and we don't have that capacity to do so. Also, we have laws that are really keep taking us backward, even when we move on. So we have jurisprudence that has really been helpful, and right now you can prove a case of sexual violence even without the victim. Case of Basit, I was saying. And sometimes you can also prove this case even with the victim only. However, the decision that we got was for a case of rape. So when it comes to children, Section 40 of the Trial and Indictment Act and Section 101 of the MC is very instructive. I must corroborate that evidence. So what we do is we look for corroboration from other things. So we'll have the child, and then we'll look for evidence surrounding the circumstances of or the commission of the offense. But you know that in many cases of defilement, usually children are the victims. And this is placing a very high burden on the prosecution and also the children, because it is interesting that court can believe an adult woman if they find them believable, but yet for a child, I as a prosecutor, I need to corroborate that evidence. And if I have not corroborated that evidence to the satisfaction of court, then that case will be, the accused will be acquitted. So we are looking at hopes that such laws should be amended. The process is long, but we are on it. We brought it to the attention of the Attorney General, and I think they're in the process. Then some laws are also very limiting in their definitions of what amounts to a sexual act. So amendment of such laws can also help. But by and large, we are not just seated. We are also doing everything within our power. I think in the whole of the former JELOS, now we are in governance and security program and under the access to justice. The office of DPP is the most underfunded institution. Yet we are the ones who handle all the prosecutions. So judiciary is funded, police may be funded, but for us, and where there are budget cuts, usually our office suffers the most. So it puts you at a struggling point as to what you can do and how much you can do. But when it comes to cases of children, we are now working with very good friends who are supporting us. We are now doing special sessions on SGBV, where we are actually now going to the 4th phase of this. And to come around what Mr. Twine was saying and what Doctor was referring to, the office of DPP recently got anatomical dolls, anatomically detailed dolls that we use in the prosecution of these cases. So these are
a really good challenge, and I'm glad that we will be getting onto Zoom if they can give us the picture there of Dr. Sylvia Namubiro. Dr. Sylvia, thank you so much for joining us and joining us at such a right time. One, we just have a burning concern which I would like you to respond to immediately. And because you're from the NGO world, the question that has been posed is, who will take care of the service providers who are investigating day and night, perusing files and making sure that justice and the wheels turn? Who is going to take care of those? But also, if you could give us your own perceptions of what we just watched in the documentary. Who is going to take care of those? But also the documentary.
Okay, thank you so much, Moderator Raymond. I am online and I would like you to caution the person who is handling the system. There is a lot of talking. It is interrupting the conversation. That said, I have not picked much of your question, the first one, which is talking about, I think we talking about the vulnerable that are going through what they're going through, and then the documentaries. I try to speak with the main of the documentary. I join my fellow panelists to appreciate you, Solomon, for the good job done, and also to appreciate the brains behind the documentary, which is, in a way, an eye-opener with issues, but we are bringing them to limelight to show what the number of persons go through when they are traversing the justice system in the quest for justice. The case of Nakamate is a case of many out there. Not to say that the justice actors are not doing a good job. We already know the office of the DPP is doing tremendous work. And there are many cases that have been
just when she's praising the office of the DPP.
Someone has it in for the service providers today. But maybe as we get her back, Dora, I'd like you to speak towards just special protections and maybe mental health clinics for service providers who deal in these cases.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to really associate my thoughts to Damali, that what she raises is a critical issue and really mostly not talked about. Generally, issues of mental health and care for the defenders, defending the defenders, have been issues that have been on a low scale of attention. And we acknowledge it from different perspectives. It's actually interesting to hear it from the government perspective. We have really pressed that there is more recognition of the impairment that comes with this work. It is definitely difficult work. It is traumatic, it is emotionally draining. So I think we all agree, and it's an issue to put on table and for continuous discussion. And I hope that probably from this meeting, the outcomes of this meeting, issues to continuously follow on, the development partners that care for this work to move on. It is critical that there should be defense for the defenders, there should be care, emotional support for those that are putting in the work and those that are putting in the care. And also what I actually thought about, that yes, we acknowledge there is a lot that is not going well, but we also need to acknowledge in the same vein of those that are putting in the work, where we are seeing results, where we are seeing that there is a consistent improvement over time. So that is critical, and I would like to be noted on that. I also agree that issues of witness protection are critical if we are going to be having an effective process that is leading to justice over these cases. It has been a conversation we've had in several boardrooms, in several dialogues, and I think it's overdue that we cannot continue to have such numbers rising and very little infrastructure around them. So I think from us as civil society actors that are in this space, we'll add our voice where we must, we will push where we have to, that as we are hopeful that indeed, as Charles says, that we are hopeful that the changes are coming, there will be among those the laws around witness protection to be more strengthened and for pushing. I will take this to the Domestic Violence Coalition, where Uganet is a part. It has been an issue on the table, but I think every other day, as we continue to lose sleep over how the issues of sexual violence in children are coming up, this continues to be a core issue for reflection and for action. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Charles, I want you to speak towards witness protection. I know maybe it's not regularized, but Solomon and I have been beneficiaries of some level of witness protection when we do some of the more dangerous kinds of investigation. Is it something that police can work on to be able to regularize it for all the other people who are witnesses?
Yeah, thank you. You see, witness protection is very key. Very key, and it has an impact on the output of the crime that is under prosecution. Of course, as Uganda police, we've been trying, mechanically. I told you of an incident where Dr. Attembe brought victims, and we had to take them somewhere for a shelter. For, among other things, for psychosocial support, medical treatment, but also at the same time, taking them away from the society. I can tell you, criminals are so daring. They are so daring. They are so daring to the extent that they can even kill a witness. They are so daring to the extent that they can burn a store that has some incriminating evidence. So when we talk about witness protection, it is very key, because you see, in criminal justice system, for us, our relationship with the ODPP is like the mouse and saliva. Where we go wrong, she cannot have a better output. And that is why they are handy in as far as directing us is concerned. Actually, going forward, we have unanimously agreed and even signed the ODPP and CID guidelines that all capital offenses, especially SGBV cases, must be jointly investigated. That circular was produced about 2 weeks, investigated in a team. Now we have added the ODPP so that we get the results to support her prosecution. So if in her output she actually finds out that the witness must be protected, and we must therefore do it. So going forward, really, that's what we are going to do. Like I have indicated before, we hope for the best.
All right, thank you. I'm going to turn now to our senior citizen, Dr. Maria Mathema. What are some of your recommendations to make sure that justice arrives, and it arrives in a way that's fair for victims of gender-based violence and sexual assault?
Recommendations are now difficult. I do agree with the amendment of the laws. Really, the laws should be amended to bring them into the prevailing environment right now, so that we do not remain with the archaic laws. Because, for instance, if the young lady is 13 talks and the medical report shows and the test of this is the right person, because the big challenge we find, I think in cases of defilement and rape, is when the general public is not aware of what somebody who has been raped should do. That I think has killed many cases. They go and wash, and then you have nothing to test. So one of the recommendations actually should be massive, mobilization and education about these victims. Once you are raped or defiled, not to wash, but to go and test. But then the big challenge I find there is the unfunded, incapacity of the police to carry out these tests. When the woman reports police, they tell her, give us, transport us to go and get the victim and to get this girl, to be tested before she has washed. Those challenges are there. The underfunding. So I think against that, I recommend something which is not possible, because it is about reprioritization of our government expenditure. For me, the most surprising thing that I have seen is that in the midst of COVID, this COVID pandemic and its impact, our government continued business as usual. Because for me, if for instance you are the head of the family in the midst of this COVID, don't you prioritize your expenditure? Do you still go to buy shoes, new dresses, and so on when things are so bad in the home? But I do not know. You should have called also these legislators to come and join this thing. Because I don't see them reorganizing, reprogramming, prioritizing what are the priority areas to address post-COVID and where money should be injected. Because for me, I've already said, if you cannot inject resources into the human resources, like she's been saying, we should be having a government like counseling center where people who are traumatized because of the nature of their work can go and be what are these words?
Therapy.
A therapy, to get therapy, to get released off and set free from all that and then start afresh. It is not there because development and nurturing of human resource in this country is not at all a priority. So if you ask me what recommendation do I make, a reprioritization of our priorities and reorganization of the government expenditure. But so much is being put on what I call not so much productive or useful things for the people. You can find so much put there. I want to mention some of these things which surprised me because, for instance, when we were suffering with COVID, vehicles are not there, blah, blah, blah. Now that it is a bit better, You pass at Kororo, you'll see all these vehicles which are supposed to surveil. Surveillance. Is it really surveillance on COVID or surveillance on these front things which are coming up? That is my own thing. When you are not politicians, you don't look at things from that angle. But there should be reprioritization of our expenditure, really, and see where should we invest if we are to pick up Ugandans, if we are to pick up Ugandans, especially the women in this land, especially some institution called the family. If I was part of whoever is organizing, there should be, the family should be placed high up on the agenda of investment of Uganda money. Because parents are traumatized. You know, I'm telling you what is happening there. Me, I know, because many families that come to me, and I can't do anything. I just put in what I can. I call upon my God to help me, and we help to the extent which we can help, but there it is. Now, corruption, unless there is genuine commitment fighting corruption, all these recommendations are just a waste of time. Because it all begins there. If the police is ready to investigate without anything, if the attorney, the prosecutor is ready to prosecute without anything, if the court is going to do without anything but be driven by justice and fairness, then even with little money, we could do work. Basically, most of the money to do the work is going through corruption and values, ethical values broken down. So there needs, I don't know, transformation. We need total transformation if we are to reach anywhere. Then I want to comment on what I listened when the state attorney was chasing away the case. He said that these people are related. I mean, the husband and the wife, they have their personal issues. That is a very big thing in these defilement and rape cases. I don't know if it is an issue of integrity also and ethical values, that when these cases come, like some of the cases I've been having, they say, no, it's because that brother is quarreling with the other brother. They have a case over the land, and therefore he's using this to victimize him. That is something which, if you are going to investigate, you should look into, because it is coming a lot, where they say these people are quarreling, like these people are doing this and that. And then another thing which I want to say is, you saw the weakness of this mother. Yes, we are pitying everybody, we are being sorry, but surely also women and mothers, I mean, should wake up. They should be woken up, because the current environment is so different that you can no longer entrust your child with any relative or anybody. I mean, I don't know, we have said this message, but the organizations which are mobilizing, there should be at least a specific one to address that. Reach out on women. Tell them they cannot trust any man, even their husbands. They cannot trust any man in Uganda. No man is trustable. I'm sorry if you are going to report it. Because how can I trust them when they are sleeping with their daughters, when they are raping their nieces, because these are the cases. Have you reported the case of a woman who has, you know, molested a niece or a nephew or whatever? So we need mobilization and education on, tell people not to trust, tell people not to be naive, tell people like this woman, why should she have allowed her daughter to go to this man who didn't even know that these children were growing, who has no emotional attachment to this child? Why should women should also wake up and put sense in their heads? That is a recommendation. Women wake up and stop sleeping and be careful and take care. And then your organizations also help to mobilize and educate them. For me, that's what I could say for now. I hope there are a number of recommendations there. But for sure, I was whispering to her that for you, after all, when you are tortured, emotional, and traumatized, at least you get a salary at the end. What about me? Who is not recognized by anybody? I'm just like dumped there. Spent grain except my God, who takes care of me. And this is what I would like to recommend to you also. And all of you who are involved in this traumatizing work. Unless you know Jesus as your Savior, and you lean on Him, and run to Him, you will suffer. Because for me, for the last 15 years, that's my rock, that's my refuge, that's where I stand up to now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mathembe. Dr. Slivia, we've been reconnected with you now. I don't know if you can hear us properly. But yes, we've been talking about recommendations, and we hope that you can give us some of your own recommendations on how we can proceed from where we are. Yes, we can hear you now.
I am coming at the tail end of this discussion, and I think I should emphasize the recommendations. This case, like I've said, is an eye-opener of systemic challenges related to prosecution, investigation, and ensuring access to justice, especially for the most vulnerable. First of all, it exposes unprofessionalism in investigation and directing investigations, because we now know that we are in court and we can't comment on court. The fact that there were lapses that led the mother of Nakamate to go and report and complain, and the case was taken up at a higher level of DPP. So I'd like to say that we don't need to be emotional when we are doing our work. We should do a keen revelation of ourselves as system and service providers, and emphasize the issue of professionalism and ethical conduct when we are handling our work. Nothing would have stopped the state attorney to direct more investigations into the matter, to direct the investigating officer to produce the evidence that he had picked from the scene of the crime. But that was not done. There was nothing that would stop her from calling the mother of Nakamate and explaining the gaps and giving her an account, because she was the complainant and she was pushing the case on behalf of her child. I would also like to say, the way we've seen mother of Nakamate and how she's traumatized, the issue of incorporating psychosocial support for survivors and those that are distressed because of GBV. So the issue is very pertinent. We need to integrate mental health into these cases, ensuring that there are counselors to support. There are times when she would speak and you would see a woman who has lost it all and has lost any hope. So it's very important to support that. The issue of capacitating and skilling, probably there was an issue of capacity concerning the investigating officer, and now it is being perceived as corruption. So the issue of skilling across board, because justice is a chain. If the police does not do its work well in gathering evidence, ensuring that the victim is examined properly, if the prosecutor does not properly look at this file and start the written, they have workload. So it's like any other case. The element of paying attention to detail, they don't care. They'll just say, I've handled these 1,000 cases and I don't care anymore. But one victim who is not satisfied is a reflection of all the other kind of quality of services that are given. Recently, we are in Kayunga, Mukono, Uyikwe, but only in Kayunga, after 3 months, 510 cases have been reported. Kayunga only, in 3 months. So, GBV is a pandemic. We are here now today in Terego, on the refugee settlement. Cases of development are on increase. So if we don't handle these cases at the side of the law and ensure that the culprits are prosecuted and punished, whereas we are talking about awareness creation, but doing our part, these cases will continue. Then massive education, massive sensitization of the mothers, like we had Honorable Mathembe talk about, the mothers to protect their children, the children to know how to also be in safe places, but also the aspect of being empowered to push for justice, like Mother Nakamate did, would also go a long way in strengthening service delivery. I want to end it by saying also, because of in the interest of time, the commitment to fight corruption. We are going to be at the defensive all the time, and we are going to be speaking where there's a perception, where the evidence was not enough, where the case, and all that, but we should not run away from the fact that this case is an eye-opener, and it daunts the justice system, and it creates loopholes and questions as to how professional the different actors behave. So it is not enough to pull this case and put it back into the system and begin to prosecute it and correct the wrong. It is much more important when we go deep and ask what went wrong. Was it an issue of capacity? Was it an issue of corruption? Was it an issue of unethical conduct? Who is responsible? And what can we do? So we really need to commit, because the public is seeing. The public is watching us. We are in our comfort as service providers and we are doing our best, but the people out there have a lot of question marks on us. So when we get this one single case that has really blatantly been mishandled, it is not enough to take it into the system to see whether we shall be able to have justice. That is one case study that we should use, and others and many others. Of course, I want to thank the office of the DPP, and I want to insist that the DPP is doing her best, like Honorable Attembe observed. The former DPP and the current DPP leadership are very committed. We've been doing corruption monitoring. We've been preparing institutional reports, and all the reports we have presented to the office of the DPP, they have gone ahead and handled and inquired more. Where they deserve to recognize, they've written and recognized the good performance. So it's very, very important. All the other institutions like the police, because we know in this case, even when you see everything is around the police need to show commitment because everything starts with them. If the evidence they correct is insufficient, if it is bungled up, if it is intentionally mixed up, we are not going to get justice. And of course, thousands of them are languishing in trauma or going without justice. This is a very other good use to use the tool of investigative journalism. I want to thank the African Institute of Journalism and Solomon Sewanja for giving us this as a tool. I remember, Solomon, I was talking to you about that case which I used in when I was doing child justice. I was doing my master's, and I was looking at the best interest of the child in inter-country adoption. And we are looking at that time to reforming the law, especially on Children Act, to have it amended, to provide for legal guardianship, also to provide for inter-country adoption, and have those areas amended. I remember you brought the documentary which was The Red Flag, the case of Bukenya Stewart. And I used it as my case study to do my thesis in master's. And since then, we have had the Children's Act amended, but utilizing one of that as an investigative documentary. So we want to use this particular documentary too, not to just watch and go home. I want to call the officers in the office of the DPP, I want to call the officers in the police, and also judicially, much as the case is still ongoing, to do a keen revelation using this particular documentary and say what needs to be done. Where are the loopholes? What do we need to strengthen in order to provide a comprehensive and holistic services for the victims or for the survivors of GBV, so that together we can eradicate GBV. I thank you, and I hope I've been heard, because I'm down this way in Arua. It is hard to be with you physically, but I have been following, and I appreciate everyone who has made it to this launch. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Slivia. We've heard you clearly. You can hear the hand clap, which means we've heard your remarks very well. I also want you to give a round of applause for all our panelists today. They've put together their minds over the last 1 hour trying to beat their heads around this issue. I now want us to have just a short, brief speech from Solomon Sewanja, who investigated this case, but who is also the director at the African Institute for Investigative Journalism. he will. Sure.
So we can get some feedback and reaction. Viola said before I speak, perhaps you can just get 2 or 3 people.
All right.
I'll do the honors of moving the mic.
I didn't want it to be career limiting for me not to invite my boss. But okay. Now.
Do you want me to? Okay, cool.
Thank you very much for this documentary. My name is Dr. Roswitha Kremser. I have the honor and pleasure to represent Austria in this beautiful country, and am the head of the Austrian Embassy Development Cooperation Office in Kampala. Thanks to Solomon for having shared the invitation and having also led this documentary. I think it's an important piece to show what journalism can do, what free journalism can do, to advance not individual points, but to advance common problems that society detects. So thank you so much for that work, first of all. Then, as everybody knows, I'm a big friend of Jelos, so thank you for...
telling you, you know, when you read and you listen, somebody saying, after all, they had a problem. So does that problem that I have with my partner enough to justify why you should not take my case further? No, but that is what we see every day. That's what we go through every day. And therefore, my call is that we have these systems. Let the systems work together. How can we be having a parliament that does not speak to Jeros? How can we be having the DPP office that does not sit together with the police? Because most of the things that I've had here are things that can be resolved. That as a police, if there's an issue that has come up, you are not able to handle, and you know that probably when it gets to her office, it is going to be challenged. Cause for meetings like this, dialogue, so that at the end of the day, the beneficiary of the service, the citizen of this country, can feel that they are being served. Short of that, we undress ourselves and do things that, of course, do not take us where we should be, but probably that is the only solution we have. That's the only opportunity that we have. I want to thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. My name is Fatia Chiange. I work with the Center for Health, Human Rights and Development, CEHAD. Thank you to AIIJ and UGANET for this important event. As I watched, I was actually thinking about the other things that I observed in this documentary. Why wouldn't we ask ourselves why a 13-year-old is being treated for UTI and is being treated for PID, pelvic inflammatory disease, which is rare, and where it happens, it is too painful. So I'm wondering, even in terms of investigations, is it the law that is not enabling? How come a girl of 13 having UTI and having at the same time PID, which was being treated, nobody gave attention to this as some kind of indication to the justice system? I think these are the things we need to amend. Should we have only alerted ourselves if, for example, the girl had HIV? Maybe people would have now thought, oh, okay, let's do this. Couldn't the father be even investigated or even examined for UTI, for example? So I think we need to just broaden our minds and pay attention to some of these things. It's not usual that a girl of that age will have both of such conditions, and so then we would have probably done something about it. But also, as I watched, I was thinking, we CSOs are spending a lot of time doing awareness creation. This woman here seems to be a woman who has been sensitized on the SGBV mechanism and referral pathways, but you clearly see that it is the justice system that frustrated her efforts. And I think we have many women like that who know what to do. They have been sensitized. They know you go to police, you go to clinic, but then the justice system is letting them down. I think for me that tells us a lot, that perhaps it's the amendments of the laws that we have to do, but also we have to target the justice system a bit more with awareness creation, but also perhaps working with them, for them to know that it is the justice system that is somehow frustrating people who know what to do. And I think for such a woman giving up, we'll have another 1,000 women who know what to do, but will actually give up because they have been frustrated by the system. And then also, I thought, with the language the father used on this girl, 13-year-old, and the father is saying, I'm going to cleanse you. Maybe we are not doing enough of giving the right information to the girls. It made me recall my 10-year-old right now, who I told before, if anybody ever touches you, not even your brother or your dad, they should not touch you like this. Who should touch you? And she said, you, mom, only you, mom. And I was consistent over time. And it stuck in her head. For periods, when the 11-year-old got periods, she told me, no, you prepared me. So I think giving some information to these girls when they are young is important. When a father says, I'm going to cleanse you, go to bed, and then you have told them that never go to bed with any male person, you know, perhaps that could ring back into their mind. So I think we need a lot of work. We have a lot of work to do in terms of helping the girls with the right information. And also recently, Dr. Ayume, the chair of the Parliamentary Committee of Health, noted that the police is now thinking of establishing shelter places, at least with regional police stations. At Sahad, in the lockdown, we had an elderly, she got pregnant. And the uncle was threatening to kill her. So then issues of safety. Then we had to look for a place to take her for safety. When we got to that place, they then told us very soon that now issues of maternal health, who is going to handle those? So it is all these many things that, you know, vulnerability after another coming to these girls. This girl is still in this shelter place with a baby of an uncle, but fortunately, the shelter home has a school, so she's going to school. But it is all these many things, vulnerabilities, one after the other, that we have to deal with. And finally, I think it's good that we get men, many more men, even the ones of this room, to speak about these issues, for us to hear what they think about such issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. My name is Judith Attembe. I'm from the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung. Special thanks to Solomon Serwanja, Raymond Mujuni, and the team at the African Investigative Institute for Journalism for putting this up together. And also, special thanks to you, our distinguished panelists. It's been an enriching conversation. And when I was listening to the submissions that you all made, the moral question came up repeatedly. And indeed, it's something to reflect upon. There is a lot of moral decadence out there in our society. But also the question of morality is something that has existed with human beings forever. History has showed us that generally you cannot trust people to be morally upright. When you look through the Bible, there are lots and lots of instances of questions of morality. And that is why we have institutions like the police, the justice, law and order sector, and many other institutions, including the religious institutions. Why? Because we believe that the incentives or disincentives that these institutions provide through penalties at the court systems, for instance, help to curb and address moral ineptitude among people. Now, if these penalties are not coming up, if justice is being delayed or denied, then the message that is being put out there is that you can basically do anything and get away with it. So then what is the deterrent for an offender not to be a repeat offender? Because you defile a child today, you get away with it because the loopholes are so many for you to walk away with your offense, and then you go out and do it again and again. So I am also glad that this discussion has addressed the legal loopholes, the institutional challenges like corruption, the lack of expertise, and things like that that hamper these processes. But also, the question is, we've talked about these challenges and loopholes time and again. We know they are there. But what are we doing, or what is being done to ensure that these kinds of experiences, having their childhood innocence taken away from them. Thank you.
They're asking for men. The men are silent, loudly silent, apart from, yes, undertaking the documentary. Thank you so much to everyone and everyone who has expressed their opinion. It's valuable to bring the discussion to such an important forum. When I was watching the documentary, I was reminded of a time I used to work in Amuru in a previous life under the Justice for Children project under JELOS. And I used to record during the Christmas period from November to February. We used to record each month 60 cases of GBV. That is a district that was huge then, communication was difficult, and those were just the reported cases. And because I have walked the journey with some of the victims, I know the laboring task of literally walking with, hand-holding a child, because you don't have probation services, you don't have what, literally you're the one now, because I was the coordinator, instead of coordinating the institutions, I was coordinating the victims to receive justice. Because I had a deliverable and I wanted them to perform, so I ended up hand-holding them. A child comes to me, I have to walk with her to the health center, which is closed at many points, but that, leave that for another day. Then they refer us to Gulu, and you're lucky if you find a health person. I'm sharing this story to illustrate the challenges of cases of GBV. So when we who may say in civil society, or people who are interested, even us who still get calls, because even us, even if we might not work with GBV directly, we still get calls because people think we are knowledgeable, so we are the ones calling, you know, because there was a case in Kabalagala where I got, like a year ago, someone called me about a lady she employed a girl to work in her house, but she was defiled by the woman who employed her. So this was female GBV now, which was very new for me. I was also shocked. You're like, okay, you're used to men doing it, but another woman doing that to a maid, supposedly they brought into their home. But when I was here, I was just, I felt like we were reading the book of Lamentations. Almost, I even asked someone, why are we here? If it is not to find a solution for the so many silent cries that are happening in so many homes in this country. We have seen how COVID has become an epidemic. While we appreciate the challenges of the stakeholders, and we are not lost to them, because even as we work with them, we see them, but we would like to see some way forward from the stakeholders where this is a catalyst to doing better. For us not to see this and say, oh, well, that happened. Oh, well, Solomon did a documentary, then 1 year ago it happened, it's somewhere on YouTube, you look it up, you know. We want to come out with concrete solutions. And I know many development partners have done SGBV handbook for prosecutors, SGBV policy, SGBV what. There's a plethora of policy and documents to this issue. So what am I here? Because we have the target of no child left behind, supposedly, at a global level. And, but we are not taking steps, even if I know as a country we are challenged. Because even just the health, getting a test, requires people to pay for it. Remember, she went to a private clinic. Probably that was the first challenge, because there's no standardization of services. Because she had to pay for it, she went to a private clinic. Maybe people who have not been, because also health worker needs skilling in the way they do that test. First of all, it's paid for. Remember, it's paid for. Then it is also, the person who is doing the test has to pay 50,000. And remember, the child had to do it twice. That is re-injuring the victim. Everyone is asking you what happened. Everyone is asking. Even if Solomon was trying to get the facts, that was even re-injuring the victim. You know, even if we're trying to bring her story to the forefront. And that shows you that we as a country have not taken steps. I was just laughing because police has, let me say, briefing. They do this thing on radio call. I spent a lot of time with police officers, so I know a bit of how they work. In the morning, you have this briefing, whatever they call it, and on radio, there are always those static things going around, updates that you share. But I wish there was more deliberate effort towards, even on GBV, for example. Because I don't know what the impact of whatever is happening to children right now will be felt much, much later as a country, unfortunately. And some of these things, you may not see them now, and it will just be business as usual. And it's just unfortunate as a country. Things happen, and we move on to the next thing. We don't care, which is sad. And yet these are our children. We claim to love. We claim to fight for. People even get IVF to get children. People spend 40 million, whatever, to get children. But we treat them like they were not wanted in the first place. So this is my In addition, I've had people, the lady who spoke about HIV, even the HIV movement, people had to cry in those rooms to get governments to move, literally cry. So it is an emotional issue, whether we want it or not, because the experience of a child in those circumstances is painful and emotional for the rest of their life. It's not something that even if they get a conviction and they are convicted, for the rest of their life they will live with that what happened to them. So maybe just, it is just to cry to the stakeholders, especially the duty bearers. Unfortunately, the people who protect us. So we'll try to you, we'll load you. We have nowhere to go. Who shall we go but you? We cannot go to ourselves, you know. So that we will come to you because you're the people. The state has a mandate to protect us, and that is why we give up certain rights for you to protect us. And that is the constitution of who? I've forgotten that person of history. Hobbes, Thomas Hobbes, and when democracy was being developed with the concept of a state, of what it means to have a state in any part of the world. So I think it is, even your officers, randomly, because you cannot always meet, it's expensive to bring people, even whatever allowances and all that, but you can just have regional, even if it's quarterly, how are we performing? And we have but even there are certain trends that happen. For me, you know, because police officers take long to respond because you have to collect someone from Kawempe whose duty station is in Zambia maybe. And that is really a discussion for another. But it's things like that, where the institutions are reforming. Because until we stop this thing of this police officer was nice, now the new one is not good. Maybe the DPP currently is good, the former one wasn't good. But where the institutions work for themselves. Because we can no longer rely on people. People come and go and they also get burnt out. So they have the right to leave and go do something else or whatever. But we hope that the institutions stay serving the people. But also another caveat to the person who said that people are empowered. In my experience, I don't speak that I know everything in this regard, but in my experience, people in the urban areas are more empowered to report. They have a more, what do they call it, je ne sais quoi, I think, where they're able to follow up issues. People in the upcountry are more laid back, they are more timid, but also because it's easy for them to negotiate, they marry, because a couple of cases I called were teachers defiling children. But in the village there, a teacher is like I don't know who is the richest person in Kampala, like a really, really rich person, like a person of standing and whatever, who is able to take you from poverty to some level of comfort. So to also know that in the rural areas, people don't really have that same fighting spirit, because by nature of the way our society is, patriarchal and all that, but also the information gap, but also the lack that they are not even sure of what to do, and I think the literacy levels and all that. But other than that, maybe not to take too much time. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thank you.
All right. I think. Okay. Yeah. Two men,
yes,
but
yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. Solomon and AIJ, thank you for the good job. First of all, I had someone saying they haven't had men speak, so I stand to speak on behalf of men. First of all, we condemn in the highest terms possible these acts. Many of us believe in persuasion and other means to woo these ladies to us, and unfortunately it is never captured. I also, these organizations, I also want to mention that the boy child has been demonized so much and neglected. It's very unfortunate, because a young man growing up will think that being a man or being a father is such a bad thing, because that's what we've been hearing like the whole afternoon. We have not had a good story like from Dr. Mathembe about Engineer Mathembe and how nice he is and a good father. We have not had that side. And yet I've met him as a super guy. Yes, I know him. Or myself. So I think also, dear ladies, also talk about the good things, your husbands and your brothers, and what we are doing, how we are loving. There is also a good side, which I think, and solo also, you have to investigate these good stories. Otherwise, we are going to have a problem. You may, as my sister said, we are not seeing it now, but in the next 10, 15 years, if you do not focus on the boy child and tell him what he's supposed to do and how he's supposed to love and how he's supposed to, we shall end up in this problem. But thank you very much, Solo. And for the last time, I want to say we condemn this kind of act. Thank you very much.
Okay, one last, and then we can close.
Okay. Thank you so much, the representative. Bruce Tushawi is my name. I work with the AIDS and Rights Alliance for Southern Africa. For me, I think it's the call to action. For me, it's the message in there, especially from where I come from. And looking at the documentary, really, it shows me the underlying factors, the many root causes. There are many causes that bring up to this. But from where I come from, it's the structural barriers within the system, and to recognize that it's just systemic and the challenges that come with the system. For instance, if we don't invest in police, if we don't work together with the police, if we don't work together with the judiciary, then we'll have these challenges come over and over again, resurface over and over again. There are issues to do with, for instance, we are talking about mass mobilization, we are talking about sensitization, but clearly from this documentary, we see that there is information. The woman has the information. The uncles are actually literate. They are actually knowledgeable. But with all this information, there is a blockage somewhere. And from what we've heard, we have issues of legal barriers. We have issues of, I always call them bad laws, but laws that are really not supportive. We really have issues of the victim who is not protected. And yet, we are actually all here because of the victim. But this victim is not protected in all this. We have issues of, when we talk of structural barriers, we have issues of human resource. We have issues of officers who are handling the case, but then they are not facilitated. So for me, going back to the root cause, what really brings about an officer that is handling the case to even accept bribe? Is it because they will not be reprimanded? Is it because they will also be protected? Because we know that there is also another office that actually speaks to the police officers within the police that are doing, that are corrupt. But then when it comes to that, for me, the take home is probably we also need to look at how do we then support the system? How do we support the mental health of the officers that are handling this? How do we support, for instance, Uganet and other CSOs to support the police to do their work? And then I will really be happy if we come back to sort of do an evaluation, probably sometime next year, to see what has really changed and where are we now from the conversation that we are having. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I'm going to close it there because we have to be mindful of, one, the fact that there's curfew, but also there's a cocktail waiting for us, which if we don't finish now, we won't be able to enjoy. I want to allow for Twine had just a short rejoinder because some of the questions really came towards the institutional nature of the Uganda Police Force. I'll give you about 2 minutes just to make your rejoinder and finish, and then my panelists can close, and we can have the rest of the conversation at the cocktail tables.
Thank you so much, moderator. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for that engagement. It has been so humbling that your submission is so encouraging, and it casts, it really gives us hope that together we can fight crime. Now, very quickly, I want to emphasize on very few key institutional interventions which Uganda Police has put in place. One, like I earlier indicated, all SGBV cases must be jointly investigated with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution to ensure quality and expeditious investigations. Two, Solomon, you noticed that one of the things that really disturbed you was that the police officer submitted the file without the results from the forensic laboratory. Yes, it's true, and that's an institutional challenge. Most of our exhibits have been submitted to the Directorate of Government and Analytical Laboratory. And I want to tell you that some of the exhibits have been there since 2013. Yes. And it becomes very, very hard for Madame Samale to commit their choice to the High Court. Because if that one forms part of the investigations, it becomes very difficult. But the good news is the institution of police has established its own laboratory in Naguru, and I think going forward, for all other cases that would need scientific kind of analysis, most of these samples will be submitted to Naguru. So maybe you may not get a case of such nature in the future because we have established our very own laboratory. Dr. Mathembe, we have a system in Uganda Police, Professional Standards Unit. It's a unit that disciplines the errant officers. And it has done incredibly very well. Although we have not reached the desired levels, but it's our whip that at least tries to put some kind of integrity and discipline to our police officers. I entirely agree with you. We must, as a matter of fact, intensify and hasten community policy. Let us educate our people. What is crime? How do you protect the scene of crime? Where do you report in case you cite some kind of injustice? Do you know that, for example, if a crime is mismanaged by police, you can go to Madame Samali and she makes the thing right. So let us engage the members of public. But also most importantly, as I close, is that we have realized that we must build capacity. Training, training, and training. As I talk, we are now conducting several training between police, officers of the Director of Public Prosecution, but even the medics. Some of the victims, like you saw this one, once the victim goes to police, police is concerned with evidence, but it is not concerned with the mental health or even the medical health generally of the victim. But even when the victim starts with the medics, for them they treat, they make the swabs, and they put it in the dustbin. But we are saying, no, what do you think to be swabs? For us, they make evidence for us. So we have made kind of joint training to enhance the medics to know what constitutes evidence as they do their part. They have also challenged us to know what they want as we look for our evidence. Very finally, and I want to pass my message to the first respondent here, that we need support. We have challenges of shelter. Some of these children are shattered. They are shattered physically and psychologically. We don't have shelters. We are relying on these friends here. Sometimes people are shattered by their own parents, like you have seen this. And the girl says, I cannot even go to the mother. You have shown this, but the situation where the mothers are in conspiracy. They are conspiring with the guidelines. So we need shelters, and we need shelters. And with your support, I think we can. And dear ladies and gentlemen, police extends an olive hand to everybody. And we salute Solomon for this initiative. And I want to emphasize that we pledge our commitment to work with you and together with the whole entire general public to ensure that Uganda becomes a free society, crime-free society. I thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dora.
Thank you very much. Just for me, two statements. One, that Solomon, we probably need to do a small briefing note for this documentary. And a few voices that came from this meeting were very instructive, and we need to take them to the next level. One of the key messages, sounds that I heard from the documentary was the uncle narrating how he felt so bad when the investigating officer told them to leave the office. Leave my office. Leave my office. That was heartbreaking. If only the case note can ask the relevant officer to really validate whether those were her statements, asking a wounded person to leave the office, something needs to be done. Among the very many wonderful things that have been given as concluding remarks to this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Attembe, do you have concluding remarks?
Yeah, my remarks, of course, is to thank this institution which has started this kind of thing, because for me, the more people get to know the reality that is happening, the better for us to change. Because unless you are involved in this thing, you are one of the civil society or one of the defenders or one of the people that people will reach. Other people out there don't know this massive sort of destruction of the girl child. I'm sorry, gentlemen, you brought in the issue of boys being disempowered, but as you know, you have not had anything, any case of a boy girl, a boy child suffering like this. So I continue to invite you to understand that women and girls suffer much beyond men because of their physiological makeup. I thought such a situation should have opened the eyes of all those men who are saying that the boy child is neglected, the boy child is neglected. I don't know how the boy child is neglected by picking the originally neglected and abandoned sex to put it on the right footing. If I have my girl child and we are educating them, treating them like you have full human rights like the boy child, how does that disempower the boy or the man? I've been hearing these things and I don't agree with them, because there is no policy here in this country or a culture which undermines the boy child. It's not there. So the boy child, as soon as he's born, he's great. But the girl child is not great. And for us, we are saying the girl child should also be picked and told that she's also great. How does that undermine the one who is always great? For me, what I see that as sort of detracting us, detracting the struggle to liberate and set women free. Okay, you don't see Mathembe, but he's in his house, he's the head of the household. He has no cause like I have, so I come out to fight for a cause. But he's also doing his work. You can't say this woman is now empowered and Mathembe is not empowered. No. So please, that came in, I have to comment on it because I've been hearing about it and it has been discouraging the women's movement to continue coming up with the girls. And this COVID, which has revealed the dangerous impact of gender-based violence onto women, should actually raise up everybody to come out and fight for the woman and the girl child empowerment. Because it means we have not reached far. We have not reached far. Some people say, yes, some women beat men. Yes. Some women, when you chase a woman to the wall and she's so defenseless, when she comes out, she comes with all the energy without considering anything, and she may end up killing you. So please, men, rise up and help us to raise the women to be equal human beings as the men. Then things will work well. And the final, of course, on the whole question, I thank you so much. I've thanked you so much. But I want to say, each individual, this battle we are fighting, each individual of us, if each of us, for instance, determine that for me, when it comes to corruption, away with it from me. When it comes to unethical conduct, no. If each of us resolve to do that, do you think government will be condemned for corruption? Because who is government? Isn't it the human beings? You know, I have a certain book where this Brown man called Brown, he wrote that when the government is corrupt, things are dangerous. But when the populace accepts the corruption, things are desperate. And you agree with me, that's what has happened. in government there, they are corrupt, doing or whatever they are doing. But the populace has also accepted, and therefore things are disparate. So why don't we resolve that? Each of us, one, is going to perceive a woman and a girl child as a human being in their own rights, and therefore help to support that move to lift the women and girls from down. And then we also resolve that for us, no corruption, no unethical conduct with me. If we did that, don't you think we would have started fighting these evils? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Samali, do you have any concluding remarks?
This is what I have to say. That the responsibility to fight injustice is for all of us. And it cannot be tagged to an individual or to an institution. We all have a role to play. And when we begin pointing fingers, then we miss the point. I think what is key here is how do we hold each other's hands, especially those who have the ability to do so, such that we are able to support those who cannot. The people who hold these offices are human beings like everybody else. And therefore, we are not going to say that so-and-so is an angel, so-and-so is a devil. But we should learn to use the structures that are there to ensure that we support one another and see how to get justice for all of us. We must learn to speak out what is not right, but then also we must also know how to speak it, such that we are able to protect everybody that is involved in this. If you have seen an injustice in a community, please speak. You'll be surprised that even those who are in the justice system also suffer injustices. I have very many victims of GBV who are in the justice system. So even in Parliament, we have victims of GBV. We just need to work together as Ugandans and accept that this is the problem we have, these are the challenges we have, and work a way of how we are going to deal with this to ensure that everybody gets justice. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody, including you and I.
All right, thank you so much. I now hand it over to Solomon Sewanja, who will give us some of the concluding remarks and show us where our cocktail will be.
All right, thanks.
Yeah,
no, you can still there. You stay there. I'll keep this short and then we leave. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you very much to everyone, but you allow me just give 10 seconds to Anna Reisman. Anna, been quite the whole evening.
That took me by surprise now. I'm actually very glad that my colleague Judith spoke out, because she said what I was thinking all the time, that the impunity creates a very fruitful ground for some of actions, because people feel that, you know, they will not be punished. And I am thinking right now, as I was listening to everyone, I was thinking of Agnes Igoye, who a few weeks at a public event, she said, let us stop the narrative of COVID-19 being the reason for the raising cases of defilement. She said, COVID-19 does not make girls pregnant. Closed schools, don't make girls pregnant. It's, men and boys who do get girls pregnant. And they do so, and this is now something that I am adding to it. They do so and maybe have done so more often lately because I think the impunity has allowed them to do so. So I think this is something to think about, and I really feel that we should be very careful on talking about COVID-19. We hear it everywhere, COVID-19, but when we talk about COVID-19, there is no personal responsibility in it. We kind of just put it to somewhere. But, you know, epidemic cannot be responsible. Human beings can be, and we should be. And and everyone can play a role, and AIIJ has played a major role, taking also the responsibility for bringing these cases to the attention of the public, and I'm very thankful, and I'm very happy to be associated as CAS with AIIJ as our partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anne. All right. I just wanted to say a special thank you to all of you who honored our invitation. Thank you very much in your different capacities. I can't say thank you enough. On behalf of the African Institute for Investigative Journalism, thank you once again, and I think all of you deserve a hand clap. The other thing I wanted to speak to, I'm sure we've discussed everything, but let me just add my voice to the investigation. I think one of the things that has come out of this is that when impunity is not punished, it becomes a normal. Let me say that again. When impunity is not punished, it becomes a normal, becomes a new normal. I mean, let's imagine, the statistics show us of the cases that are registered at police, defilement cases. How many of those make it to court? And how many successful convictions do we receive? Numbers don't lie. What that basically means is that if we have loopholes in the justice system and they are not addressed, we're going to see someone defile a child because they can easily corrupt the police officer investigating the case. Then there is no evidence, so the DPP will lose interest in the case, and the police will not hold you for more than 48 hours. They will release you and you go back to the public and do the same thing, and you defile more. So therefore, what this investigation was trying to show are the loopholes in the justice system at the beginning point of the justice system, and that is the investigations done by the police. Are our officers trained up to date? We're going digital. We're going into digital forensics and crazy stuff happening. So at what level are our investigations officers? How are they really good with investigations, or they need refresher courses? Afande Twini was speaking about the capacity and the challenges they have. So I think that we all have a responsibility to play. And what the African Institute for Investigative Journalism is doing is using investigative journalism as a tool for advocacy. And I think that there is the power of investigative journalism. This is why I would love everyone in this place, whether you're a donor or you're a partner, to support us on this journey that we've started. I may take the limelight because it's me who did the investigation. It feels good, but there are a team of people who actually did this job, who made this job happen. But what we have started as the Institute is we will be doing investigative stories that will be in public interest, that will defend human rights, that will push for change, and would have made our contribution to society. And so I'd request you to support us when we come to you, when we request you for, you know, some support and funding and institutional capacity building, and, you know, all of us in our different spaces can give a hand to support this dream that we've always had. The team at the Institute have had to use investigations as a tool for advocacy. Lastly, special thank you to the Institute team. Please, if you're around, please stand up and just wave to the public, including the Deputy Executive Director. That is the Institute team that makes things happen every day. Let me also ask the legendary documentary photographer, Stuart Tibbs. Stuart, maybe just say hello to the people. Stewart is working on a project, and so much to LastNet. Thank you very much to the Open Society Foundation and Open Society Initiative for East Africa. Thank you so much to CAS. Thank you so much to the Austrian Embassy. Thank you very much, ma'am, for loving us. And thank you, everyone, the American Bar Association. Thank you very much, everyone of the Voice of America, Peter. Thank you very much for always loving on us. And we would love you to continue holding us in your palms as we grow. So I talk a lot because I was paid to talk that time when I was still on TV. So I want to invite you to our cocktail. Please grab a bite before you leave and make sure to share a card with someone. And thank you very much. We'll be able to put this in a report with support from Dora, and we will share the discussions that have been said in this place. We'll share each of you. I'm sure you've left your emails at the reception, and then we'll be able to send a report, and we can have action points on that note. I want to say a special thank you. Please help me join hands and clap for Dora, my friend. Dora believes in me. If there's this person who believes in me, do it because of you. So thank you. Thank you. Dora made this happen, guys. She paid for everything. Uganet paid for this. Thank you very much. Of course, she's the head of the institution. So thank you very much, Dora, for making this happen. Thank you again. All right, let's go have some fun. All right, thank you. DJ, please.